If you don't do what I tell you to do, we're divorced. And he handed me with divorce papers. Sooner or later, this was bound to happen. Alright, then let's get a divorce. What? I filled up the divorce papers in front of him. Alright then, I'll fight it. It was he gave me the divorce papers, but for some reason he's stunned. You don't get it, do you? Without me, you'll be all alone by yourself. Yeah, all alone by myself. Is that all you want to say? Then that's enough. I'm busy with packing for moving out. What are you packing for moving out? What? It's obvious, isn't it? I'm going to divorce you and move out. It's a perfect timing in the end. My name is Sarah. I married my husband Jason a few years ago. We're childless and we both work. My parents died in an accident in my first year of work, and I've been all alone ever since. I was really appreciated when we got married. I wanted to make my own family with him. I want 2 children. I had such high hopes for a bright future. However, the reality was far from that. After our wedding, Jason's attitude gradually became cold. Sarah, if I'm gone, you'll be a loner all over again. Jason would always bring up this phrase whenever we got into a small argument. He would attack me by my weaknesses, and would always get into a fight because he complains about my housework. Is it stir vegetables for dinner tonight? The dish is for old people. Didn't I call you to ask what you want to eat today? You said whatever. Yes, but I still think a housewife should think what her husband wants to eat and cook it. I was in the mood for paella today. Then say so. You should know without asking. You'd complain no matter what I cook. What? What did you say? I work just as hard as you do, and I'm the only one who takes care of the housework. Don't talk like that. You said before we got married that you like doing housework. It's true, I like it, but if you're always complaining about it, I don't want to do it anymore. I see. What? No, I just thought you were being cheeky. Cheeky? If you're making that comment, it means you think less of me. I don't like that about you either. You're always reading into things. I don't want a wife who talks down to me like this. Here we go again. Next, you just start shaking up the fact that I'm alone in the world. And then another synonymous statement from Jason that he always says, well, maybe having kids will make your loneliness go away. Maybe it's time for us to have kids too. Jason never forgets to say this after an argument. When we just got married, I wanted to have a baby right away. But early on in our marriage, the husband who had been so kind to me was gone. Now that he has turned into the man who just complains, I'm hesitant about having children with him. It's true that I have no other relatives than Jason, but before I married him, I was living on my own. I have enough money to save. I'd rather not go back to being alone, but there are times when I would rather go back to being alone than have Jason threaten me. If I had a child, I would spend the rest of my life being abused by him, and he would abuse me in front of them. When I think about it, I just can't help it. I couldn't move forward with Jason, but he didn't like this either. Before we got married, you said you wanted kids right away. So why are you so reluctant about having a baby after we got married? This is fraud, isn't it? If that's the case, why don't you make me feel comfortable to have kids? Huh? Are you going to complain about my cooking even in front of the kids like that? And complaining about my housework? Or about the way I fold the clothes? I'm not complaining. I'm just saying what I think. That's just how it sounds to you because you're pessimistic. I guess your personality gets distorted if you don't have parents in your childhood. That's what I'm saying. What do you mean? You're making a fool out of me. I'm not making a fool out of you. Jason replies with a goofy grin. The look on his face is the best proof that he's making a fool out of me. And to top it off, there's my mother-in-law. Any grandchildren yet? That's what I'm always asked when I visit my parents-in-law's house. That's right. You should tell her too. She's not helping at all. Sarah, what's going on? My mother-in-law stares at me. I couldn't say anything. Well, I guess there are things going on. Jason, you should talk it over with Sarah. I talk to her all the time. But this woman... Don't call her this woman. Just make sure you and Sarah talk it out, okay? Okay, I understand. My mother-in-law doesn't talk too much. She's been living alone ever since her husband died. She's not a bad person, but she's always saying, any grandchildren yet? And it's really tough on me. I can tell she's really looking forward to it, so I could never tell her that. I'm not sure if I want to marry your son because of his personality. I had no choice but to keep my mouth shut. Then my mother-in-law had an accident. I got a call from Jason and left work early to rush to the hospital. I guess I arrived early than he did. I'm sorry for disturbing you. Mother, are you alright? I'm fine. As you can see, I'm well. It's just that, I broke a bone in my leg. Oh my god, you don't have to cry like that. I just burst into tears. I'm sorry. I was afraid I might also lose you by an accident. I was so worried on the way here. Oh, well, I guess he didn't tell you well. I'm sorry I made you worried. I'm sorry you had to remember what happened to your parents. This was the first time my mother-in-law and I talked about a lot of things. You should go home now. No, but I'll wait for Jason to come. I'll go home with him. Then my mother-in-law sighed. He's not coming, so you can just go home. That's not true. I'm his mother, I know. It's sad, isn't it? And my mother-in-law was right. He didn't show up even after visiting hours. When I came home, he was watching TV. What are you doing? What do you mean? You called me to tell that your mother had an accident today, didn't you? So why did you come to the hospital? Oh, I thought you were going. One is enough, right? She's alive anyway, right? Then it's not a big deal. She's the only mother you have, right? Shut up. Just make me some food. I'm hungry. You haven't eaten? Of course not. Why should I spend my own money when you're going to cook? I am not doing it. I'm not cooking. I'm going to bed. Don't you dare talk to me like that. You know, if you made me angry, you'll divorce me, right? Then do it. I was hungry, but I was so annoyed by what Jason said and did that I stayed in the bathroom, determined not to cook a meal for him. The next morning, I woke up and he was already gone, and from that day on, he never came home. I guess he was hiding out at his parents' house. I just left him there. After work that day, I rushed to the hospital where my mother-in-law was. I didn't tell her about Jason. I didn't want to cause unnecessary worry to my mother-in-law, who was in the hospital. I went to visit her every day while she was hospitalized. Thank you so much, Sarah. I know you and Jason are not getting along. Thank you so much for looking out for me in that situation. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. I could imagine what happened while knowing that you didn't want to have kids. He must have done something to you. I didn't know what to tell my mother-in-law. All I could do was keeping silent. A woman's intuition can be right. He's the one who made you worry about having children, so it's okay now. I was looking forward to having a grandchild too, and I drove you into a corner by asking you over and over again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't live up to your expectations too. It was just as we were having this conversation that the doctor told us that the treatment would take more time. But she's about to discharge it from the hospital. She lives alone. She will need someone to help her until her legs heals. So I came forward to help her. I talked to the company about it, and they gave me permission to work remotely on a limited timeline. When I told my mother-in-law about it, she felt sorry for me to go through that, but I persuaded her strongly. On the day of the discharge from the hospital, I picked up my mother-in-law and arrived at my in-laws' house, but it was awkward to see Jason. He should still be at work at this time. I was supposed to meet him at night, and as the evening approached, I felt uncomfortable. My mother-in-law is looking at me strangely. Actually, we had a bit of fight with Jason, and he left the house, so we will be seeing each other for the first time in a while today. My mother-in-law is looking awkward. See each other where? This is the only place I can think of where he would go. Then my mother-in-law's face turned stern. I see. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? Jason is your precious son. I'm sure you're uncomfortable with the fact that I blamed him for our quarrel. No, not at all. He's the kind of boy who never comes to visit me. What? He never came to visit you? No, never. I was mortified. My mother-in-law was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and he didn't visit her once during that time? What an asshole. Well, he's not that sweet boy, is he? Well, you mean... Sarah, I need you to calm down and listen to me. He doesn't have a key to this place, so he is not here. That means... It's okay, I have an idea. Let's talk about you and me first. And then my mother-in-law made me a surprise offer. A week passed, and I was back in the house where I lived with Jason, packing my bags. As I was packing my bags, I heard the front door open. Oh, just in time. I wanted to talk to you. I'm busy. How's Mom doing? Why don't you come see her for yourself? Huh? You're the one taking care of her, so I don't have to go. I mean, you're the one who's supposed to be taking care of Mom. If you don't do what I tell you to do, we're divorced. And he handed me with divorce papers. Sooner or later, this was bound to happen. Alright, then let's get a divorce. I filled up the divorce papers in front of him. Alright then, I'll fight it myself. Jason was the one who gave me the divorce papers, but for some reason, he's done. You don't get it, do you? Without me, you'd be all alone by yourself. Yeah, all alone by myself. Is that all you want to say? Then that's enough. I'm busy getting ready to move out. Why are you getting ready to move out? What? Oh, it's obvious, isn't it? I was going to divorce you and move out. It's a perfect timing in the end. Then who will take care of Mom? Don't worry, I'll be there for your mother. Ha ha! You are an idiot. You know what? You won't get your inheritance by sticking up for my mom. When Mom dies, I'll be the one to get the inheritance. I'm the only son. You're not my son anymore. Jason's eyes widened in surprise when my mother-in-law came out of my room. Huh? Why are you here, Mother? You need nursing care, don't you? I was here to help Sarah move out. You stupid bastard. I can move on my own with these crutches. My only child is Sarah. I don't need a child who is after my inheritance even when I'm not dead yet. You won't get anything. I'm divorcing her. Then she's not entitled to the inheritance. I'm in the process of adopting a child. What? I'm also in the process of disqualifying you from inheriting. You won't get any penny of my money. You old hack. That's what I wanted, kids. I knew this bitch would disqualify me. If I have kids, the grandchildren will be entitled to Mom's inheritance. I told you, we needed kids as soon as possible. You're really hopeless. You're an idiot, more than anyone can imagine. If you have a child, I'll disqualify that child from inheriting again. Fuck you, you old bitch. Jason tried to grab my mother-in-law. I quickly pushed him away, pulled my mother-in-law by the hand and left the house. Hey, are you his wife? A strange woman was standing in front of our house. Oh, it's you. You're the one he's having an affair with. What? Well, for now, did you write the divorce papers? Please get out of this house as soon as possible. I see. So Jason had rolled into this person's house. I was surprised by the woman's sudden visit, but I had zero feelings about Jason's affair. I was rather excited that I could get alimony for this. And then Jason came after us. He flinched when he saw the face-to-face with his girlfriend. You're the one who made her wait here. So, you were having an affair. Thank you. I'll make sure I get my alimony. Jason stood there stunned. My mother-in-law and I get into the car and drove away with him standing there. Then we went to the city office and filed the divorce papers. After that, I demanded alimony from both of them as I had declared. They made excuses, but their intense relationship was easily exposed through the free-spirited girlfriend's social media. They both transferred large sums of money to me. The cheating partner was after my mother-in-law's inheritance. She disappeared from my ex-husband's life as soon as she found out that he was not going to get his inheritance. I guess they were very much alike, both after money. And Jason came to my parents-in-law's house many times to try to get back together, but his mother refused to see him. I blocked his contacts early on, so he couldn't call me. A couple of times he called me from an unknown number, but I don't have to deal with unknown number. Since then, my mother-in-law's leg has recovered completely and she is doing very well with no after effects. I'm very grateful to my mother-in-law for suggesting to stop me. And now, several years later, I'm still enjoying my life with my mother-in-law. I'm no longer alone. We can be a real family if we care for each other, even if we are not connected by blood. I will continue to spend my life with my mother-in-law, my mother. It's unforgivable to take your wife's witness and do whatever you want to her, and his reason for wanting to have children are terrible. He will never be happy. I hope Sarah and her mother will be happy in the future. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next video. My name is Annie. I live with my husband Jay and a black cat as a pet, Pepper. I have known Pepper since I brought her home when I was single, so we have been together for about 5 years now. There was nothing wrong with my marriage, but the relationship between Jay and his parents was bothering me. He was raised by his father very strictly. No video games, no TV. He was not even allowed to hang out with his friends. Because of this lifestyle, he never made any friends. Until he met me, he had a very dark personality. It was 2 years after Jay and I got married that my father-in-law, who was such a strict man, passed away. He collapsed suddenly when he was eating breakfast, and he's gone then. It's not that my mother-in-law served him something for breakfast. My father-in-law used to take the medicines for hypertension. The doctor said he had a myocardial infarction caused by his hypertension. When my father-in-law passed away, I asked Jay if he was doing okay. For some reason, he had a smile on his face. No one can stand in my way anymore. The face of Jay and the way he muttered while looking at the portrait of his father, it was quite creepy. No matter how bad a parent he was, don't you think it's normal to show at least a hint of grief? To be honest, from that moment on, I became afraid of Jay. It was as if he had become a different person, like he was possessed by the devil, that kind of fear. Then, a week later, after the funeral of Jay's father and finishing various other formalities, Jay changed drastically. Jay had gambled away all the money we had set aside for our home. Don't you want to live in a mansion? When I tried to warn him, he yelled at me, and I was so horrified by his change that I couldn't stop him. Sure enough, all the money we had for our home was wiped out. I was shocked, but decided to hope that this would wake Jay up. But reality was not so sweet. Apparently, Jay could not forget the pleasure of gambling. He even started to spend our living expenses. He was completely addicted to gambling. He would only bet on the biggest jackpot, saying that the crazier the better. He never hit the jackpot. And even if he gambles on the high probability one sometimes, he never won. Jay didn't have the slightest talent for gambling. By the way, don't tell him that the number I predicted was the winning number. Jay is a salesman for a big company. I work from home and live in my in-laws' house since my father-in-law passed away. After setting aside some savings for the future and for living expenses, the rest of our salary was free for each of us to spend as we please. But ever since he put the money saved for our new home into gambling, he started putting his hands in all kinds of money. My wallet too, of course. Gambling addiction will improve if people around control it thoroughly. That's what the book said, so I tried everything that seemed to work for Jay. But when I told him I will manage the housework finances, since we would suffer if we took our living expenses, he yelled at me and refused, saying, "You're going to steal my money, you thief." When I explained to him about his gambling addiction, he was furious and threw the remote controller at me, saying, "I'm not insane, I'm normal." When he threw the remote controller at me, it almost hit Pepper, so I evacuated Pepper to my room. Then he started yelling, "So your cat is more important than me?" And no matter what I said to him, he wouldn't understand about gambling addiction. And moreover, he threw things at me again and again, and I realized there was nothing I could do. Gambling is more important to me than you. If he says something like that, you would think so too. It had been 6 months since my father-in-law passed away, and my mother-in-law was completely unaware of Jay's situation. It seemed that Jay was lying to my mother-in-law that he only gambles with his allowance. He was trying very hard not to show his bad side, especially to his mother. To Jay, his mother was the only person who will spoil him and heal him. She was the complete opposite of his father. If my father-in-law was the devil, my mother-in-law was the angel. I think he wanted to avoid being hated from her, but I didn't want him to use me to avoid being hated from her. Actually, my mother-in-law said to me today,
"Annie, Jay told me, but you shouldn't complain about every single thing your husband does. A wife should obey to her husband without complaining."
She kept on and on about it. "But mother, Jay is always saying terrible things to me."
"I'm his mother, so I understand everything about Jay. He's a sensitive boy. He never said terrible things. But because of you, he had no choice but to say them."
My mother-in-law was so sarcastic. When I was about to say, "But it's necessary for his gambling rehabilitation."
"Well, I think you're overreacting. You should allow him to gamble a little. You don't know anything because you just stay at home, but men have social life. Jay used to gamble once a month to relieve stress. You should stop meddling. Oh, and you should level up your housekeeping skills instead. I check your room from time to time. It's so dusty. No one could live in a place like that. You're a lazy wife."
Did you go into my room without telling me? Is that why my work tools are missing?
How can those things be work tools? You don't even have a job to begin with. My son said you're a stay-home parasite.
I've explained to Jay that I work from home. I've even taken him to meet the people I work with. He even talked to them and greeted them. And he calls me a parasite? Does gambling addiction even make a person lose his memory?
Besides, everything in this house is mine. I'm free to throw it away or sell it. If you don't want to be evicted, don't disobey me. Before I could say anything back, she left with a big smile on her face. When my father-in-law died, she changed. She became more devilish, mean, and bullying. When I complained to Jay about it, "You call my mother a thief? Are you going to use that story as an excuse to beg me for things? You're a wicked bitch." He won't believe me. He just yelled at me. Why did I marry such a man? Why did I put up with him and not abandon him? This thought was growing stronger every day. And when I finally discovered that Jay had even gotten his hands on my savings, something snapped inside me. I'm getting a divorce. It was the only way. If I continued to live like this, I would be doomed to hell. But I didn't think they would let go of me so easily, of someone who they could just treat like a nice housekeeper. I couldn't imagine that they would simply nod their heads when I asked them for a divorce. Just when I was hesitating, someone unexpectedly came to my rescue. "Hey, Annie, I have a favor to ask you,"
said my mother-in-law in a coquettish voice. To say the least, I was sickened.
"Will you divorce Jay? Of course, you're a parasite with no money. How about $100,000 as alimony?"
Divorce with alimony? I thought I was dreaming, so I scratched my arm with Pepper's fingernail. It hurt. It wasn't a dream.
I can understand why you don't want to leave Jay. He's the husband you loved. But you know what? I've never forgiven you. You were always trying to get Jay's attention by making me the bad one. But you're not good enough for Jay. Jay is tired of you too. He says that you spend the money he saved together for the house, but you spend it all on your own.
What? I couldn't say anything. He blamed me for spending the money.
But Jay said he'll forgive you since he has a big heart. But I can't forgive you. So I'd like you to accept the $100,000 on the condition that you stay out of our lives.
I almost screamed that he was lying about the whole thing, but I didn't think my mother-in-law would listen to me. I was racking my brains thinking if I could just let it all go away like this. I have an idea. Maybe I could get a divorce with alimony and just give these two a hard time. Besides, if it's my mother-in-law's opinion, Jay wouldn't deny the divorce. For what the angels say is absolute. I understand, and I will gladly accept your offer. I can't thank you enough for also considering my future. I forced a smile on my face and bowed to her. Then, under the leadership of my mother-in-law, the divorce proceedings so smoothly completed. All of my savings were used, but thanks to the unbelievable alimony, I got my money back. I got a note from my mother-in-law about the alimony, just in case, but I'm relieved to know what the money was transferred to my account right away. The source of this $100,000 was probably my father-in-law's inheritance, but it didn't matter to me anymore. I rented a room near my office and started living with my cat Pepper. It has a walk-in closet and a loft, which I had always dreamed of. I even added a catwalk to the wall, and Pepper and I are overjoyed. The power of money is incredible. Now that I've taken the plunge and rented a nice room, I can now spend my days in peace. My ex-husband and my mother-in-law are gradually fading from my memory. I wish I could just forget about them, but I know that won't happen. 4 months later, I got a call from my mother-in-law.
Annie, why didn't you tell me? Please help me.
I was shocked to hear my mother-in-law's voice, which was weaker than I had imagined.
I regret kicking you out. Please help me.
My mother-in-law began to explain the situation. The reason my mother-in-law wanted the divorce in the first place was because my ex-husband told her that I would rather live with you than a wife like that. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life. My mother-in-law, who loves her son more than everything, immediately agreed and prepared a large sum of money so they could get divorced as soon as possible. After the divorce, they immediately started living together. She didn't know that Jay was a gambling addict. From now on, I can take care of the family finances. He asked her to put all the family assets under his name.
I am so blessed that I have a good son to take care of me. Besides, this house was going to be inherited to you anyways. There will be no problem if I change the name now.
My mother-in-law nodded as if to say no problem. She didn't know that it was the worst possible choice. My ex-husband started to show his true colors as soon as the name was put in his name. For starters, he took out a real estate mortgage using his parents' house as collateral. He used the money to gamble again. It was only yesterday that my mother-in-law found out about it. She received a forced closure notice from the lender and found out about it.
What the hell is this?
He asked my ex-husband about it. Oh, that. I used it to gamble. You got a problem with that? He replied, just like that. She then asked Jay a lot of questions. Apparently, he had mortgaged his parents' house to pay off his gambling debts, but he used the money to gamble again. Jay said, "If I won all at once, I'll be a millionaire." The horse is undefeated so far. There was no way he could lose, so he put all the money in. And then, at the last minute, the horse fell down and the most unlikely horse won the race. This horse had never won a race before. It is said to be the biggest miracle of the century. Jay was a natural-born loser gambler. Too stupid. He repeatedly defaulted on his payments, and it had been more than 6 months since his last payment. My mother-in-law was horrified to find out that he had spent every penny of her husband's inheritance, savings, and salary that he had. In addition, Jay said, "It's okay, Mom. Next time, I'll earn money from bicycle racing instead of horse racing. So, give me the rest of Dad's inheritance." That's what he told her. When my mother-in-law replied that the money was almost gone due to my alimony, Jay was furious. "Why did you pay her alimony without telling me? And $100,000? If I had that much money, I could have doubled it by gambling." He was very rude to her. My mother-in-law contacted me and asked me to return the $100,000. "I can't do that. I have a note." "Can you do something about it? We were a family. Please, please." My mother-in-law cried and pleaded it with me, but her tears wasn't worth a penny. I'd even filed a claim for mental anguish instead. "I don't care what you say. Please work hard and pay back." I tried to hang up the phone, but my mother-in-law's attitude changed drastically. "You can't talk to me like that when your family is desperately asking you for a favor. You cold-blooded person. You should feel sorry for us and at least think about it a little." I sighed deeply. You know what? I have pointed out his gambling habit to you many times. You were the one ignored what I said and make fun of me. This wouldn't have happened if you believed even a little bit of what I said. Look, this is all your own fault, you know? "That's because I didn't know. I didn't know that gambling addiction was that serious. And I would have at least listened to you if you would have insisted." "Yes, it's all your fault. Take responsibility." That's the kind of mother she is. That's why he grew up like that. You two are really alike, you know. You can't even tell when your son is lying. You're a real joke. And it's your son who gambled away your savings. Did I use it? It was all your son's fault. He deserved it. Thanks to you, we're strangers now, so you have to take responsibility for your family. My mother-in-law, perhaps intimidated by my attitude, became silent, but she still hadn't given up. "All right, $50,000. All I have to do is pretend that you stole it from me. Then we can sue you and get back to $100,000. You know, this call is recorded just in case. I knew you were going to say something like that. Besides, I have a note." "Wait a minute. You're going to sue me to get back the $100,000? Why don't you give it a try? Maybe you can win. Do you have the money to sue? Should I lend it to you?" "Okay." "Oh, you've become a monkey? Then I guess I can't talk to you anymore. Goodbye." After that, my mother-in-law went to a lawyer's office for advice, but I heard she was turned away at the door. "Consult with us for free. You can pay the cost for suing." That's what she was trying to tell him. Of course, she would be turned away. A few days after the phone call, Jay asked me to get back together with him. He no longer had anything to put up as collateral, and he was completely behind his payment. I heard that some men in black suit were visiting his house every day now. The house had been sold, and they had to move out in a few days. Jay, who has no money, has nowhere to go. Even if he escaped, he would be caught by the men in black suits. So I want you to hide me. He also wants me to pay his debts. I told him he could ask his co-workers for help. The man in black suits started visiting him at work. The company found out that he was in debt. Jay, who still can't stop gambling. He was fired for disturbing the public morals of the company. He had a small severance pay, but he used it in gambling again. He's really a hopeless person. Hey, let me live with you. I apologize for everything. Don't mock me. I know what you're up to. You just want to gamble with my money. No, I mean... I can't help it. Tell me where you are now. I'm in a playground near my parents' house. Debt collectors won't be able to find me here. Okay, well, don't move from there. I have a gift for you. After I said that, I hung up the phone and started making calls to a certain place. Then the debt collectors found Jay. He was taken somewhere in a black car. He would have loved my gift. This whole mess started when my father-in-law passed away. Just one person's absence was enough to change the people in my parents-in-law's family. Was it because my father-in-law was such a big part of the family? Or maybe this is what happens no matter who is gone. I'm sure that eventually I will get married and start another family. I will make sure that my next husband does not become a gambler. I will try to make sure that I have a decent mother-in-law.